Happy New Year, and welcome to your first weekly discussion post of 2021. Again, I encourage you to always to kind of approach these with the right mindset instead of, oh, another one of these. The mindset I'd love to have you cultivate is one of growth, one of this is becoming easier, and more of a formula for me. And even if your mindset is just, that was kind of an interesting article, then it's a win. We're reading more, we're writing a little bit more, and that's our goal. Okay? So don't forget that it's really best practice that when you know that you're going to be reading, with writing being an end, assignment or goal or, assessment, you want to read the prompt first so that you can closely read the article, looking and annotating for the right evidence. Then, I encourage you to outline your post or draft your post or both. And that would allow you then to revise and add transitions before publishing to Schoology. So before we read the article, let's do that. Okay, there we see the page of transitions that I hope you're trying on some new ones. This is the place to try that out. But let's read the discussion board prompt. Karen Hitzelberger has cerebral palsy, a permanent movement disorder that affects one's coordination and whose symptoms include stiff or weak muscles and tremors. Write a post analyzing how the author's perspective on her disability has changed over time or developed over time. Use at least 2 pieces of text evidence in your response. In your conclusion, explain your thoughts on this question. Does being strong always mean being a fighter? So our main question, as it identifies here, is how does the author's perspective on her disability, cerebral palsy, develop over time? So we need to look for that. And because the word develop is used, that indicates to me that, from an earlier spot in the article to a later spot in the article, there's going to be some kind of evolution of her perspective, her disability. So let's go ahead and take a look at the article now. Recently, I saw a picture on Facebook that said, "I fight cerebral palsy. What's your superpower?" So much about this illustration focusing on cerebral palsy awareness struck me as wrong and uncomfortable, and it left me with a nauseous feeling in my stomach. Immediately, images of me at constant battle with myself popped into my head. Fight cerebral palsy, I thought? How would that even be possible? How could I constantly be at war with something that is so intrinsically a part of me? And why would I even want to fight a battle that could never really be won? It brought back memories of childhood when I honestly believed that if I could just be like everyone else, everything would be fine. It brought back memories of frustration with a body that never seemed to do what I wanted it to do, and feeling so desperately like I wanted to fit in, but thinking I was the problem. Feeling like being able to walk was the magical cure that would solve all my problems, and that if I just had a normal body like my sister, everything would be perfect. Thankfully, times have changed, and I'm not that little girl anymore. It took a long time, but I have learned to love my spazzy body, and I no longer see walking as the magical cure that will solve all my problems. Instead, I have learned to embrace my wheelchair as the amazing tool it is, the tool that allows me to see the world and live my life on my own terms. Slowly, I have learned I am not the problem and never have been. I have learned that cerebral palsy is not something to be battled with, overcome, or conquered. It is a part of me. A complicated part, for sure, but a beautiful one, and I wouldn't change it for anything. It has shaped my life and the way I view the world around me, and it's given me so many great relationships and experiences for which I will be forever grateful. I will never say I fight my disability because doing that would be fighting a war against myself and a very important part of me. I will never say I fight cerebral palsy because disability and cerebral palsy are not problems to be battled. I will say I fight ableism and prejudice. I will say I fight lack of access, stigma, and ignorance. I will say I fight discrimination. I will say I fight these things because I do. These are battles to fight and win. It is ableism, prejudice, lack of access, stigma, ignorance, and discrimination that prevent me from having the same opportunities in life as my able-bodied brother and sister, not my cerebral palsy, my wheelchair, or my inability to walk. I will fight to make this world a better place for future generations of kids just like me. I will fight to make sure they are never told or led to believe their bodies are a problem or something they must do battle against on a daily basis just to fit in. I will fight to make sure those kids have the same opportunities as everybody else and never believe everything would be better if they could just change who they are. I will fight for a world where the mere presence of disability does not make you extraordinary, where disabled children are taught to aspire to more than just existing, and where being disabled doesn't mean you have to be 10 times better than everyone else just to be good enough. I will fight for a world where we talk about living with and owning our disabled bodies rather than overcoming them. I will fight for a better world and a better future, because those are things worth fighting for. But I will not fight a war against myself. So a pretty powerful piece here, and I hope it struck you as such as it struck me when I first read it. So just to remind ourselves, the main question is, how does the author's perspective, her point of view on her disability, develop over time, over the course of this article? So again, I have to go back. There has to be a move, a change, an evolution. And so for me, one of the pieces of evidence that I need to take a look at is that in her childhood, she honestly believed, that she could be just like if she could be just like everyone else, everything would be fine. She felt frustrated with a body that never seemed to do what she wanted it to do, and felt desperate and thought she was the problem, and that being able to walk was the magical cure. That having a normal body, everything would be perfect. So one thing she does to kind of, show us her perspective is she goes back to her childhood and memories of frustration and wanting to be like everyone else, quote unquote, wanting to be normal. But then we see the evolution. Times have changed. She now loves what she calls her spazzy body. She no longer sees walking as this magical cure. She embraces, her wheelchair as an amazing tool. And she's learned she's not the problem, and that cerebral palsy is not something to be battled, that it's a part of her, and that she's actually grateful for the experiences and relationships that being herself, has brought her. And then we have this beautiful pass of parallelism. And remember, parallelism is this repetition of maybe the same 3 or 4 words, or more at the beginning of a line. And so she kind of talks about how she'll never fight her disability, because that would be fighting a war against herself. She will fight things like prejudice and stigma. So she has this, I will fight all these things. And then continues to say, I will fight to make the world a better place for future generations of kids like her. And so there's this beautiful development of perspective on herself, from someone who feels frustrated with who they are and at war with herself and who she is, and just wishing for a different self, to someone who embraces, and loves herself, her body, her abilities, her tools, like her wheelchair. And then even further, a development of a fighter, not against cerebral palsy, but as a fighter for, kind of inclusivity, and someone who's going to fight to make the world a better place, for everyone, especially people, who are like her, who need to evolve their ideas as well. So notice how the claim is kind of set up. In Why I Refuse to Say I Fight My Disability, the author shows her perspective on her disability has developed from one of frustration and, kind of wishing to change herself, to one of loving and embracing, all of who she is, instead of just, pieces and parts, or wishing to be someone else. Now notice the next part says she conveys this evolution of perspective by, because that kind of takes it to the next level. I'm not just saying how her disability's changed. I'm kind of going into how she's shown us that by, sharing childhood memories, and using a parallel structure. At the end. Sharing childhood memories to start. There we go. And using a parallel structure at the end. At least that's something I'd like to delve into. Again, are there other things you could say? Sure. Okay, certain diction she uses, like embrace and love and, and things like that, forever grateful. I mean, those are more positive, diction, more positive connotated words than what comes in the paragraph where she's frustrated. So again, I'm going to pull those details and explain how that shows that her perspective on her disability has changed and developed. And then I'm going to do that a second time. And then finally, and this is a part that some of us are forgetting, we get to that point where we've, set our evidence, but we forget to kind of close it up. And I would encourage you in these posts, because they're not TDAs, they're posts, I would encourage you to make that personal connection. And so this is a food for thought kind of question. Does being strong always mean being a fighter? Her title is Why I Will Not Say or Never Say I'm going to fight my disability. And so does being strong always mean being a fighter? All right. Okay. If you have any questions, be sure to ask.